So welcome, friends out there. MathyNoodles and I are going to take on risky business with his aggression deck. I'm going to get coached. We're going to see if I can make half decent decisions or not. It is questionable considering I've been playing a deck where you make almost no decisions and just keep on putting stuff on the board until you actually figure out that you have enough damage. So we don't know. We don't know. Um, so before we draw the initial hand, big picture, what are we looking to do here?
As is usually the case with most aggro decks, what we're looking to do is punch him in the face as much and as hard as possible. Um, I um, I like aggro because it's usually the most efficient in this format. I've played a lot of aggression decks in my days over the seasons and rounds I've played. With this one though, you do have a chance to go a little bit slower, like with the combo decks. Sometimes it's usually better to take the first couple turns to get some setups for the important upgrades. Just because with Wasp, it is so important to get some stuff out and get some stuff going, just so she can actually do more than one thing per turn with her hand.
Hmm.
Um, the deck runs 2 copies of Martial Prowess, just so you can get that out there super, super quick. It also runs a copy of Quinn Carrier, which, again, usually for the Solo League format, usually don't actually like running Quinn Carrier that much, which,
Pretty slow.
may shock some people. I know people love that card, and I do too in, other formats, but it's so freaking expensive, and when you're looking to close out the game in 5 rounds, that's usually the kind of like the median for some of the faster rounds in the format. Usually, you just can't get nearly enough value out of a 3 cost card that just generates 1 resource per turn. This, of course, is an exception, just because Wasp has no resource generation, almost no resource generation or card draw in her natural kit. And on top of that, these rounds, especially for these games, I should say, especially for round one in the season, they're going pretty long.
Agreed.
Yeah, I haven't really talked to anyone who's been able to go under 8 to 10 rounds on average. So that is just where we're at. And yeah, obviously, more expensive supports and upgrades, they get way more value the longer the game goes. So with those two things in mind, yeah, I think Quinn Carrier is a really good play for this deck. But uh, but that being said, there are a bunch of high value events, attack events in the deck that I added from aggression to kind of take advantage of that martial prowess.
Yep.
And with that in mind, you don't always have the luxury to really sit around if the only thing you can do in your hand is punch him in the face with a clobber or a surprise attack or something like that. So yeah, yeah. Ideally, you'll want to set up at first, maybe 2 rounds, and then start punching. But it might just be the case that you need to start punching earlier. We'll have to see. We'll have to kind of play it by ear.
Right. It's pretty hard because Norman is just begging to get punched in the face. Like it's just the kind of face he has. Sometimes it's hard to restrain yourself. In fact.
It's so true. It's so true.
Okay. So we're gonna snag an initial hand here. All right. So martial prowess, right? That is you definitely, as you said, one of the things we're digging for. Um, I'm looking at this, acknowledging that we do want to get some things down. It might be nice to dig for a Quinn Carrier as an example, but I definitely would get rid of my 2 events in this case. And seeing the 2 pin particles and knowing I can turn those into more card draw from tiny form, I might be inclined to even keep. No, I was going to say that. So I had something to play. I might even keep the biosynthetic wings just to add to that because knowing it's a pretty useful upgrade. It's a little expensive for what it does, but it is definitely useful in this scenario, considering it can soak up. It's going to soak up a minimum of 2 damage, probably 3, or even a little bit more. So,
Yeah,
what do you
yeah.
think?
The biosynthetic wings I usually don't prioritize unless it's one of these earlier turns and I don't really have any other better upgrades to play with it.
Yeah,
Because you can only really use it in tiny form. Like you were saying, it's going to soak up 2 or 3 damage, and that just doesn't seem like it's worth a 2 cost for something like so relatively situational, especially when we can dig for better cards. So
Right.
yeah, I would definitely, like you were saying, throw away the events. They're not even like the good events. Well, Wasp Stain is good, but we can always shuffle that back in with the alter ego action before we flip over. So yeah, I would definitely throw those three away and yeah, draw back up.
Right. I mean, as we've discussed elsewhere, the the damage events she has are actually quite efficient. It's actually one of the strengths of her kit overall. So, it's kind of one of the nice things. We don't need it right now, but it's just, those are always welcome additions to the hand, really.
Oh
Okay.
yeah, 100%. And I mean, that is a lot of what I got the idea for this like kind of build or direction of the deck for. Just like her pinpoint strike and her wasp sting are just her best cards by a lot. And martial prowess lets you play those for cheaper. Because that's the only problem she really runs into is like
Hmm.
having like being able to pay for pinpoint strike and then also play another card from her hand.
Right.
It's just like not a thing unless you get some resource generators out. So yeah,
So
right
I'm
there.
just gonna look at what's in our discard, and knowing that it's efficient, I probably would plan just to shuffle that wasp sting back in.
That is fair. We definitely want to shuffle that back in. But before we do that, we do also have a pinpoint strike and a giant help in hand. So what we might want to do first is like we know we definitely want to get the martial prowess down, right?
Yeah.
So with that in mind, we might actually want to pay for the martial prowess with either the pinpoint strike or a giant help and then one other card. And then we can shuffle the Wasp Stain and the other science card like back into the deck, get those both back in.
Right. Um, okay, and then figure out how to use those pin particles up later. I mean, the I might be inclined to keep the giant help
Mhm.
um, as something to actually use the pin particles on. If I like what you're saying. So, what about even just using pinpoint strike to pay for target acquired, and then shuffling those two events back in, and then flipping and using martial prowess with the two pin particles?
Actually, yeah, that is. I think that is the play here
Okay, so let's
because
try.
then you can use the two pin particles to yeah draw more
So,
cards later.
so we're discarding that, and then we're just going to throw those straight back into our deck with, just as a reminder, wasps shuffle up to two cards back in, which when you're playing protection and you get to do that with multiple mana, it feels pretty darn sweet.
Oh yeah.
That's actually one of my favorite protection things, is being able to do that with Wasp. All right, so we are flipped down to tiny. We can bring out Martial Prowess and play the pin particles. Each of the pin particles allows you to draw a card after it gets spent. So we're back up two. Um,
All right. So here, with a bit of a tough decision because like obviously we got the genius, and we probably want to use to pay for the giant help. The endurance is important. And if it was the last one in the deck, I would say we should play that. But there is another one in the deck just so you don't have to run into situations like this, basically.
mhm.
Um, so honestly, what I would do is I would pay the two genius to pay for giant help and just like clear the threat off the board. Just because that's like technically the most efficient thing we can do with
Mhm.
our hand right now.
Mhm.
And then honestly, probably just pitch the endurance so we can draw back up to full. We really want to dig for some allies so we can like start to get going.
Right. Okay. So my inclination would have been, I think, to just uh, kind of ping one thread off and get the endurance out because I know I'm going to want it later. But I like your efficient play and your digging, because I would have tried to hold the genius. If we do that, we also can use one attack to ping off one of those infamy counters.
Yeah, exactly. And that'll
Right.
just like make them that much easier to flip over when we
Okay.
finally do start to punch a space for real.
All right. So we'll do that, and I'm having a little bit of clicking trouble, but hold on, we'll fix that. And so we're going to giant help, even though we're not giant. We're giant help down to 0. Oh, my my barley is ready.
Ooh.
What a thing. Okay, well, I'll go deal with that in a moment. Okay, so we'll pitch that and draw back up. We'll do a villain turn, and then we'll go turn the barley off.
All right, sounds like a play.
Okay, so 2 surprise attacks. Seeing what, so there's nothing. We have nothing reactive in the hand, but it is good to think ahead of what we might be wanting to do anyway. So that this upcoming turn we can get an ally and a surprise attack done, or we're going to have an awkward hand in terms of something's going to be left hanging, but
Yeah,
it's fine. It's fine. Let's not complain too much. So we didn't flip him. So start of villain turn 1, he gets his threat, and then Osborne has his replacement effect. Instead of attacking, he just gets 1 infamy counter.
1 whole health. Definitely beats getting punched in the face before.
Heal for 1, and then we get our encounter card, and our encounter card is not scary in any significant way.
Right.
And it is... he's in Norman form, so this one actually... Oh, no, it's the wrong one. Okay. That's the one that is just 2?
Yep, that is just 2 for that one, yeah.
Okay. I like seeing this one, because since it has both a boost effect and an icon on it, it's good to see it pop out of the deck.
Yeah, and it's almost nothing to deal with. This is one of the better encounter cards we can draw for sure.
Right. Well, and I've been running Justice in addition to Leadership, and using one way or another to really do a lot of my hand size stuff.
No, yeah, and that makes so much sense. I think that's why Justice was very strong in this scenario, just because the side schemes are so weak, and you really need that card draw Wasp. But yeah, I don't know. After trying a little bit of Justice out, I think I like Aggression just a little bit more. It's just a little bit faster,
right?
In my opinion.
Right. Well, it's just interesting. I've really stared at these side schemes because there's 6 of them, and they more or less are all just 2 threats. So they're. I'm reacting as a person who's been playing Justice when I see that, because that's just a juicy 2 sitting there. All right, and I totally forgot to untap, but that's fine. Okay, so going into turn 2 here. All right, so excuse me. Looking at my hand, it feels really hard to imagine camping out here for another turn and want to take advantage of that surprise attack. Hulk. With this deck wait, Goblin has 3 attack on the other side of this? Right, so Hulk is likely to be able to take 1 attack and survive, but not guaranteed, because there's definitely some 2s in the deck as well. But I think so I would probably want to... Well...
Yeah. Definitely a hard decision, because, I mean, like I was saying before, the thing with this deck is, if you draw a hand like this and it's just full of attack events, you really don't have the luxury to just, keep chilling out and waiting around, because that's a lot of damage you're missing out on. So in this case... I am thinking what we should do, and this is a little bit risky.
I love it.
But I think what the best thing to do would be to start off by playing Hulk, just to get that body on the floor. Definitely want to play Hulk over Spider-Girl, just because he's such a big beefy boy.
You want to attack?
So here's the problem. The problem is if we don't attack with him first, we're kind of wasting out on a whole 2 damage if we try and do a surprise attack after that. So,
right.
And now, we can't do a thing where we try to punch him with Wasp's giant side, because we have that side scheme out, right? So we need to use her activation to basically clear out that side scheme so we don't get an extra encounter card.
Agreed.
Yeah.
So okay, well, let me offer a counter that is slightly less risky, but the I'm worried about Hulk getting defeated even at 4 health.
Yeah, I mean there are a lot of science resource generators in this deck. It's almost a coin flip between that and the good one, the fist. So that's the problem.
Yeah, she has a lot of science, but also even if he does survive, the chance that he's probably going to go down with the Green Goblin attack is pretty high. I don't remember the stats on the deck, but the number of 0 boost icon cards in the encounter deck's pretty low.
Mm-hmm.
So if Goblin has a base attack of 3, Hulk's only going to take one, probably going to only take one attack anyway.
That is true, but the good thing is because he has so much health, what we can do is we can use him to attack Goblin, flip him, absorb that indirect damage. If he survives, we can absorb that indirect damage.
Oh
like
yeah, right.
I actually want to do that because I think how the timing works out is after Hulk attacks, right? So we attack, so flip him. We can
Yeah.
before the attack actually resolves, we can deal the indirect damage to Hulk, and then we can flip the card, see what happens, and then if we might, and in that case, we might also only want to do 2 indirect damage because if he draws a lightning, he'll do another one. That'll put him at 4, and then he can still block an attack.
All right, I see your plan. Okay. All right, we're back after getting disconnected, but we are looking at playing Hulk, and then attacking, flipping, and being able to surprise attack after, and finally deal with the threat on the schemes.
Yep. I think that is the most efficient play by far. It'll absorb some indirect damage. It's going to damage him a crap ton, and we'll also be able to clear out the threat all in kind of one go.
Okay, so we're going to have one extra thing left over, and my inclination is to perhaps hang on to Spider-Girl, especially depending on how this turn goes, to see if that's maybe what we want to actually hang on to through the turn. Does that seem...
Yeah, I think that is definitely the play.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. Because if for some reason Hulk biffs it and we don't draw an ally next hand, like we basically, once we flip in Mugabu, we always want to get an ally down. We need that chump block for that crazy attack damage that he's putting through. So definitely want to get on Spider-Girl as the extra one.
Okay, and then so does the order actually matter between surprise attack and Hulk? Like if we okay, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I was just going to say we would save slightly more damage if we attacked with Hulk first. The 3 versus the 4, because we can get the 4 with the martial prowess being a fist generator. So we swing for
we get
3
that
with
4.
Hulk.
That's right. Yeah. Okay.
So we get the
Agreed.
3 with Hulk. Automatically flips him. We waste 1 damage, but happens.
Okay. So we're going to attack with Hulk. So the first thing that happens is we do our 2 damage on here. This causes this to flip and get 2 counters on it. Goblin flips and now does 3 indirect damage. And we only want to go 2 there so that between his consequential and the possible extra damage that would come from drawing lightning bolt, an energy, that he might actually survive. So we'll take 1 damage to Wasp and 2 damage on Hulk. That seems good.
Perfect.
Okay. So that was the first part of the scary. The second part of the scary is now after he attacks. What is the order of the consequential on this anyway? Is consequential the very final thing that happens after?
Well, the text on the Hulk says after he attacks, so I'm thinking the consequential damage actually comes before the card flip. Because the consequential is like the last step of the attack, right?
Yeah, and then we get the flip. Okay,
Yep.
I like it. Okay, I'm just gonna get my boost back here, and okay, are you ready?
Drum
I
roll.
I'm feeling worried, frankly.
All right.
I mean,
Yeah, of course.
it was almost guaranteed, right?
No matter what the statistics are, you're always going to draw one guaranteed.
It is almost guaranteed. And then we're gonna flip up to giant and surprise attack with our martial prowess. For 4, we will do our thwart for 2 to be able
Yep.
to ditch this.
Hmm.
And I always can't tell if I've put that the right way, but I have. And so now we're pretty exposed. Um, do you like this idea of keeping Spider Girl?
I
The,
do, just to be like extremely safe,
okay.
because yeah, we're going to be able to absorb a decent amount of damage here by defending, which we're definitely going to want to do. But if we get like a second attack, we're definitely going to run into some health issues pretty quick, and we want to make sure we have another ally. But then we drew another 2 allies, because of course we
Hmm.
did.
And an awkward hand as it turns out, but that's how it
Okay,
goes. So that was turn 2 for Wasp, and turn 2 for the villain. We get our threat getting added, and we're going to get attacked with a base of 3 plus whatever is here. And
Mhm.
I'm going to want to defend with Wasp. Her defense of 3 is pretty sweet, actually.
Yeah, for sure.
I feel marginally worried about not being able to deal with that 2 threat on the main scheme, but that's my justice control player brain looking at the game and acting. Okay, so we've defended and we're flipping, and we the first thing is the boost effect. Now we already have our target acquired, so we can actually plunk out this boost effect. This is really the type of boost effect we're looking to get rid of, because
Hmm.
it's basically going to cause Gobby to flip. The my my only hesitation is that Goblin flipping once he's been advanced is worse than flipping now. So saving this for a later one, like potentially has more value, but I don't think that is worth not doing it. That's kind of my point of hesitation.
Yeah, that is a fair point. That's a fair point. We technically could get more value out of it later. But going on the other side of that, if he draws an extra attack here, we're probably going to want to like flip back to Alter Ego and heal up a little bit. And by canceling this out, we can still ensure that he's staying in Godby form for at least a little bit, if we want
Yeah,
to do that.
that's actually even better. Okay, I love it. So this is an extra 1 on top of the 3. We defended for 3, so we're going to take 1. We got rid of the boost effect with target acquired, and we've got our encounter card. And we got the hired gun. So this is one that can only place infamy counters as the alternate option, and infamy counters are not the kind that we see when he's here. So it's going to be an extra boost card for next attack. And then our hired gun has 3 health, and that is a bad guy turn.
That is the bad guy turn. All right. So.
Let me just have a quick look and out loud, and then you tell me what you like. I mean, based on the fact that there's no way to spend 2 of any of these, I'm struggling to do anything other than play Mockingbird. But I'm curious what other suggestions you might have.
Yeah, that is most likely to play because again, like classic Wasp stuff. We're playing one card this turn. But let's see. Just trying to conceive of like other possible good plays.
I mean,
Um,
Machine Man and dumping stuff in so that we actually can take out the hired gun is kind of another possibly reasonable approach.
that is a reasonable approach. Because yeah, the problem the only crappy thing about playing Mockingbird is we don't really have a way to take out the hired gun if
Uh-huh.
that's our only line of play,
Hmm.
or taking that 2 damage no matter what. So with that in mind, even then, I think the Mockingbird play is going to be better than the Machine Man play. It's just going to be more efficient overall. Yeah, we'll take the 2 damage like this turn, which isn't the most ideal, especially in a game where you don't really want to be taking a whole lot of extra damage. But we're at least going to be stunning him, and that is going to save us a crap ton of health overall. Um, so yeah, in this case, that is probably what we're going to want to do. We're probably going
Hmm.
to want to do the Mockingbird play.
Um, well, and so the other thing I also like about the Mockingbird play is I I would direct her activation to thwarting. So that kind of keeps us to. It's possible for an advance to actually push us over. But oh no, it isn't because he's in goblin form anyway, right? Sorry, I'm having my paranoia from being playing where I'm stringing out how long he's in Norman and he can actually scheme, but he can't actually scheme. So I'm not as worried about the threat as I actually am acting
Yeah,
like I
yeah,
am.
yeah,
Okay, okay.
exactly. A lot of the times, once I flip him over to Gabi, I will let the I will let the threat ride up a little bit more than I'm usually comfortable with in
Hmm.
these kind of games, just because, like, yeah, even if he schemes, he's just gonna flip over to Norman. So, um,
And this is where giant help ends up being in this approach really helpful.
yeah, having that 3 Thor and being able to like distribute it around is just absolutely insane.
Right. So my experience, and I don't know if you've had the same, is Wasp's helmet is nice. It's basically one bonus threat in big, and that's about the only thing it really gets used for. So I'm not inclined to necessarily keep it, but knowing that Mockingbird is probably going to be able to stick around for an extra turn, keeping an ally feels a little bit less important. Um, now,
Yeah, and so we have seen how many allies so far? We've seen 4 allies. We still got another 6 in the deck, so it is safe.
mhm.
Because Mockingbird is going to be sticking around probably another round, it is probably safe to ditch the allies instead. But that being said, they also might end up being a little bit more useful than the helmet. Um, I'm thinking we might actually want to keep Spider Girl just in case we come into a situation where the hired gun is still being a total pain next turn. We can
Hmm.
just ignore him for a turn, basically.
Well, what do you think about keeping pinpoint strike since that's going to be a really clean way to take care of the minion on the board and push damage next turn?
You know what? That might actually be the play, especially because we have Marshall Prowse out. It's going to be
Hmm.
pretty easy to pay for and everything like that. Um, yeah, you know what? I think that is the play. I think the play is to actually keep pinpoint strike here.
Well, of course that requires that we draw some sort of card that only costs one to be able to play alongside it. So it's not the most likely thing, but
Plenty of one cost in this deck. It could happen.
uh,
Or we could draw a double resource or something. You never know.
okay. So I'm going to throw our 3 health on there, stun the big guy, and we'll keep pinpoint strike as it's just we know it's a clean solution for dealing with what's on the board,
Yep,
and very efficient ultimately.
for sure.
And then Mockingbird, with that in mind, if we end up wanting to do something else and need to use our Wasp attack to take out the hired gun, and knowing that we can do overkill anyway, I'd probably want to just push the Mockingbird damage onto the hired gun so that if I'm doing something else next turn other than pinpoint strike, Wasp's basic activation can take care of the hired gun.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's a great call, actually. Yeah, then we could either just activate with, yeah, we could just in one activation take out the hired gun if
Hmm.
we really need to. If
Hmm.
pinpoint strike doesn't end up being the play.
Hmm. Okay, I like it. I like it. So I think we're all good. We're keeping pinpoint strike. We're not going through this deck very fast. And we did get a one cost solution because it's Ironheart. Sweet.
Ooh, buddy.
Okay, that is or actually Clobber too, or Endurance. Maybe we got multiple. Okay, you weren't joking. You did have them. So this is going to be villain turn 3, and it's going to go up to 3 threat. Goes to attack, replacement effect of stunned goes, so it doesn't actually happen. The boost card just hangs out. Hired gun comes to attack. Um, I see no reason to do anything other than just take the 2 damage.
Yeah. Definitely don't want to like block for that, unfortunately. But yeah, taking the 2 damage is where it's at.
Okay, and then encounter card. Okay, based on our plans, flipping and ditching this doesn't seem so bad. The the cards we'd have to ditch would be Pinpoint Strike and Ironheart if we tried to do the other thing, and that would be much
That'd be
worse
bad, yeah.
than losing the
So,
activation.
for sure.
Okay, so we go to Alter Ego and Exhaust, and this gets removed from the game.
Nice. Perfect.
And we say, okay, not bad. So turn 4. Um, is there anything that we want to actually throw into the deck? No. I mean,
Don't believe so. I mean,
oh, sorry, I meant from in our hand in terms of like paying for
yeah.
Ironheart
I mean, you
first.
could play Ironheart to use Ironheart to play Endurance, and then we'd still have enough left over for the Pinpoint Strike once we would flip to Tiny. That might be the play.
So you like that more than playing Ironheart to get an ally on the board?
I think so because we still do have Mockingbird on the board. I mean, Pinpoint Strike. That is just like the. I mean, in my experience, to not make games go like 12 rounds, if you can play Pinpoint Strike in a turn, you probably should. Like, you definitely want that damage
Yeah.
over most things. We'll still have Mockingbird around, and like if he does double attack, we can still defend with it, and the 2 defense isn't like completely unreasonable to block with. So,
So you're
but
like you're liking it as a healing solution instead.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, I think so. Yeah, and endurance will get us that extra boost in health too. So,
okay, and then would you want to be putting Ironheart back in the deck with her AE ability?
that is a good question. Let's actually see what other our other options are in the discard pile. That
Yeah,
sounds
so
reasonable.
yeah, so I was looking at it, and um, we have a Wasp Sting, so that's the cheaper attack event that she has. We have a Genius, which is kind of a guarantee that we'll want to throw it in there, and those are the 2 main cards we have to consider. So we've got oh, wrong one. What? Where did I see it? Oh, I lost it now. There it is. So
There we go.
those are the 2 candidates that are in there right now, and Ironheart could also get thrown in there if we use her to pay for endurance.
Yeah, totally fair. I would say Ironheart is good, but not like so strong that we would want to prioritize putting her in the deck again over something like a really good attack like Wasp Stain. So
Okay,
yeah, I think Genius and Wasp Stain is the thing we want to do to put back in our deck.
so let's do it first, so that we might actually draw into our Genius then before we play. Oh no, we're not playing Ironheart anyway. Never mind. Sorry, I was thinking we were playing Ironheart, so we were going to draw, but we are not. Never mind. 1, 2, 3, Ironheart, and then we're going to flip to not giant. We're going to flip to tiny because that is where you get the overkill and extra damage. So we're going to go martial prowess for 1, 2, 3. That is going to be 2 on here, and this thing has 1. It has 7 plus 1 with overkill, so there's going to be 6 damage that go to Gobby.
Oh, 8 damage. It deals 7 damage if you're in tiny form. It deals 1 additional damage,
All right,
and then because of
oh, sorry, go ahead.
Wasp. Oh, sorry, and then because of Wasp's hero ability, that's another damage because we just killed a minion.
Right. So it was at 10, so I did 2 to the thing, 6 overkill, and then 1 extra from her ability, right? Did I miss one?
Yep,
Okay.
you got it.
Okay. And yeah, I don't think we missed using her ability on a previous turn on defeating the side scheme or anything.
Let's see. Trying to think. Nope, no, I don't think we did.
Okay, and then again, there's this kind of magical number of 2 because that's where activation strength is. So Mockingbird attacking and taking Goblin down to 2 probably makes perfectly reasonable sense. Or how are you feeling about the threat as it's slowly mounting up?
Yeah, like I said, in most situations, I would look at getting to 4 threat and not really want to be there, but definitely a special case. I think that's perfectly fine in this situation.
Okay, well, I'm terribly nervous, but I need to remember how this scenario works, not just have my normal gut reaction to seeing a threshold of 7 and 3 threat there.
I get
Okay, so just having a quick look before we flip, we see we've got that giant help to take care of that threat if we want, and we can play giant help into Blade as kind of some reasonable path. Ant-Man is another one of the very efficient or reasonably efficient forms of damage in this deck, but then
it.
he'd be called on to block anyway, so you kind of really lose a lot of that efficiency. Okay, so that's what's going on. So turn 4 on the villain side, we get a threat. We're getting attacked with 2 cards here. Mockingbird will block, and boost card 1 is going to take one of those away, and if he is going to flip, flipping now is really better.
Exactly.
Okay, but nope, he didn't. Okay, so Mockingbird was able to absorb all that damage. And we get our encounter card. Oh, we got attacked again. And we're in tiny form. We got a defensive 2, which is not terrible. Is there any world in which you would consider not blocking?
I mean, if we wanted to flip him, but then we would just see taking a crap ton of damage from the indirect damage he did by flipping him. So we might want to like hold off on that a little bit, where we take care of some other stuff.
Mhm.
So in that case, yeah, I think blocking is definitely the play here.
Right, and with him down to one of those counters and him being on the verge of flipping, we'll probably discuss if we want to even flip to AE at the end of this next turn anyway. So
Yeah.
he attacks, he boosts, we block, it's 3 plus, if this doesn't already do it. 1 is 4, minus 2, so we take 2 damage.
Not horrible. Not horrible.
Okay, that was villain turn 4. We are on hero turn 5. Giant help, just remembering 4 threat if you're in giant. So if we wanted to flip to AE, we would only be able to use that for 3. Boop boop
Which is
boop.
the end of the world. Like,
Yep.
it's only a difference of 1 threat, and I think going AE might be the play. I think that's a pretty good call this turn, so we guarantee that flip. So with that in mind, I think the play here is actually to do giant help to get 3 off the threat or 3 off the scheme, and then playing Blade for the other 1. Blade's freaking great here. I always try and play him when I can, and it's usually pretty easy because he's a 1 cost. He is just a big dumb body for not a lot of not a lot of money to absorb that indirect damage, then block. So
Well, and there's another thing that's interesting about Blade. I mean, in addition to the fact that he doesn't take consequential when he attacks, but you, I mean, I anyway have definitely found I'm stuck with leftover resources with Wasp often. So Blade is kind of another place you can make use of those resources,
yeah, 100%. Yeah,
right? And even if he only has 1 health left, you can attack with him and then block with him still, so that
exactly.
you can actually get some decent use out of him. Okay, so we like playing giant health and blade, giant help and blade, and that'll be 3 resources. Oh, come on, hold on. 1, 2, 3. And we will flip over to, oh, I should actually take that thread off the scheme. So that was 3,
Yep.
right? We went for the slightly inefficient way. And then let's just have a quick look at the end of our turn if there's stuff in here that we think is worth cycling back in.
Okay.
Oh.
Oh, no, we've got 2 pinpoint strikes in here that we could shuffle back in, and that is always good to get those back. That is a ridiculous amount of damage.
Okay, so well, and then we're going to be able to do even more after. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so there's 2 pinpoint strikes, and then if we wanted, we could actually put a giant help back in next turn before we flip back.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So this
Then we
is
got the genius in there too, I think, right?
no, the genius is we pushed it back in when
We haven't drawn it again yet. My bad.
when
Yep.
we got forced from the obligation. Okay, so that was the end of there. Now we're gonna have a more generous hand for once, so this is nice. And oh, that is a pretty
Ooh,
generous hand.
that's great.
Um, if if a minion pops out, Throg is going to be a really nice solution because you can soak up some indirect damage too. Oh, we don't even
Yeah.
need to. We're in AE. We don't even care. Ha!
Mm-hmm.
Forgot about that. Okay, so oops, I just did that. That's usually I do a turn counter. Okay, so that is one threat. He goes to activate since he is in goblin form. He takes one counter off here. That causes him to flip and flip, go back up to 2, and that was his activation. Now he gets his encounter card. Shadow of the Past. Okay, so we did get, even if it wasn't exactly what we wanted, we did get the
Got the minion. The
got
dream
the
is
minion.
alive.
We got the minion that we were hoping maybe we would get. I don't know if that was the one I wanted, but
I mean, honestly, like, of all heroes to draw Shadows of the Past with, Wasp isn't that bad.
it was
Like,
it's
four
not that
four
bad.
health minion, doesn't really do anything else. 2 threat on the board, not too terrible. As long as we clear it before we actually have to activate. Um, yeah, there are worse things that there are worse times we could see that Shadows of the Past for sure.
Agreed. Um, Beetle and her side scheme are tedious, but not, not awful.
And honestly, the nice thing about drawing Shadows of the Past is definitely dilutes the encounter deck a little bit more, so you're not drawing as many of those
Hmm.
boost icons that actually take away the madness counters. Like once I defeat Beetle, I'll usually always shuffle her back into the deck just to dilute that a little bit more.
Right. Now, here is the mild pain in the butt for what we got. We can bring out Throg with the toughness counter. We need 4 damage to. Oh no, we just need to. Sorry, we just need to flip Gobby, so we can do that with Blade, and then worry about other stuff after, right? Because we just want to flip him before we take the indirect. I was thinking I was trying to flip and advance before flipping ourselves, but that's not actually the case. So that was my mistake. So let's see. We have 8 resources, potentially an extra 1 if we're going to play a damage event. And Throg would be 3, Brawn would be 4, so that's 7. And still not enough to actually do that and play one of our attack events.
Is unfortunate.
Well, we could. This is only for attacking, right? As initial cost to make a basic attack. So we could use our rapid growth in giant form to have a thwart of 4 that we could split between everything that's up there.
That is true. Yeah.
We could then, um, well, I don't like the rest of the hand if I do that, especially.
Yeah, it is unfortunate. Oh, and real quick, before we, well,
Oh, but we have to spend we also have the issue that we have to activate Blade, and the only thing we can activate him with is Strength.
yeah, we're not doing that. We're not throwing away a strength to activate blade, I think.
Well, so then are we bringing out Throg and using his toughness?
Yeah, I think that's the play here. Let's do some quick calculations. Because with these double, like these two double resource generators, I'm finding it really hard to make any other play other than playing Brawn and Throg. Just because that is so much value. Uh, it is tough though.
Okay, I'm just kind of lining up our thoughts here. So we would do something like that, and we could save, let's say, Wasp Sting. Um, we would not actually defeat Beetle this turn.
We wouldn't, but honestly, she's only a one. She's
Oh
only
yeah,
a one attack, one scheme. So like, if we need to keep her around for one turn, that's probably fine.
agreed. And there's no magical way to readjust these so that we can actually just ditch the strength to be able to use Blade either.
Yeah, that is the unfortunate crux of it. Yeah, because like Brawn is just like so much health to like absorb some indirect damage and just like ping some threat off. Throg can like absorb an entire, well, 2 damage worth of indirect damage in the future with that toughness. So yeah, I'm thinking we just play Brawn and Throg, hang on to Wasp Sting, and flip to Giant Form, and then thwart that side scheme away,
Mm-hmm.
so we don't have to deal with that anymore. Um, Before we do that, real quick, we should probably figure out what cards we want to shuffle back in with the Alter Ego ability.
Yeah. Now, so um, you're thinking we want to hold on to Wasp Sting, right? Not pitch it.
Uh, well, we could ditch it. We could ditch it now and then shuffle back in, unless there are better options in the discard pile, but I don't think there really are.
No, I mean I agree. So we have things that are in here. We've got a giant help. We've got Ironheart. We have multiple giant helps, in fact.
Okay.
Yeah, so we have two giant helps and Ironheart.
And the threat is still staying a little bit high, so we probably want to. I'm thinking we hold on to rapid growth, use this Wasp Stain and the energy to pay for Brawn, the strength to pay for Throg, and then we shuffle the Wasp Stain and one of the giant helps back into the deck before we flip.
And are we ultimately going to ditch the rapid growth anyway?
Probably. Yeah, yeah. I don't think it's really good enough
Yeah, yeah.
in this case to like really do anything. We probably want to get better cards out of that. But
So if we're going to do that, do we maybe just want to shuffle the two giant helps back in and hold the Wasp Sting at the end of the turn?
you know what? Yeah, yeah. That's probably the play. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, that's a good call.
Okay, so I'll just snag these giant helps. One, I gotta search. My brain cannot find it. Okay, so these two are going back in. Come on.
Perfect.
Oh, 1, 2. And then we are going to bring out Throg, and his trigger condition is he gets tough because there is a minion already in play. Very, very Thor of him.
Hell yeah.
That's what happens when you're a Thor amphibian. Then the other thing we do is we bring out Brawn for 1, 2, and 3. Brawn has the most amazing health.
Yes.
I guess just so great. Throg goes and attacks, takes Goblin down to. Oh, sorry. Takes those two State of Madness, what are they called? Infamy counters off, causes Goblin to flip. Since I'm not in hero form, or we're not in hero form, we don't have to deal with the 3 indirect damage.
Mhm.
Now we're flipping up to Giant and thwarting. And then finally, Braun is going to. He gets the threat when he attacks, right? So he can do 1 damage to Beetle since she has guard, and then 1 to the main scheme.
Yeah.
Blade just sits there looking pretty, and we hold Wasp Sting. That was what we decided we
Yeah.
liked. Okay.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Okay. And then we draw up, and we got our genius finally.
Woohoo.
But we got a. Oh yeah, we can use everything. Okay, we got a hand. We can use everything. That is an amazing turn of events.
A rarity for Wasp for sure.
Uh huh.
Playing 3 whole things, 3 whole cards from hand next turn, maybe.
What what a bunch of grumpy old dudes. All right, so we got our threat. Goblin is going to go to attack. We did not untap everybody. Blade is a great place to sink more damage later, but he also will cost something to activate him later where Throg won't. So I'm inclined to put Blade in front of this attack, but I don't know what you think.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of that as well because like he can absorb more indirect damage when we're about
Hmm.
to flip him anyway. Um, and that's mostly what we're going to be using these guys for. Well, we got Braun to soak indirect damage too. Yeah, I think you're right. I think the play is to block with Blade.
Right, we are back. We just had our debate, Blade versus Throg, or who on earth was going to block, and we decided we liked Blade. Just kind of one last point we were just noticing was this idea of Throg and Braun actually have the right attack to take out Beetle, so that's positive too. So we'll block with Blade, and
Oh.
what do we get here? 1, 2. Okay, great. So Blade takes all the damage. Beetle attacks for 1. We're not planning to block that.
Nope.
And encounter card. And we are stunned, which is
Okay.
not. I mean, her clearing stuns is not terrible.
Yeah, yeah. This is not the end of the world for sure.
I mean, um, that's a surprise attack, for example, or just an
Mhm.
activation. All right, so that was
Yeah.
turn 6. We are already on turn 7. Oh, this is just slow as sin, hey?
Mhm.
All right, so we are stunned. The threat on the main scheme is not entirely concerning. Dealing with Blue Beetle would be lovely,
Mhm.
and she has guards, so we can't split things. So kind of this notion of using Throg and Braun to do it is probably good. Um,
Yeah,
we
I agree. It would be nice to be able to like do something like activate and then switch to tiny form and do the surprise attack, but we're losing 1 damage anyway to try and get a benefit out of her hero ability in her tiny form. So
mhm.
yeah, I think the play here is to just attack with Throg and Braun to take her out.
And then just looking at some efficient play of the hand, it looks like we could Wasp Sting with Genius, target acquired with Martial Prowess, surprise attack with the Martial Prowess we already have in play.
Hmm.
Um, Clear our stunned with our Wasp activation, and then surprise attack to flip them. Right, that's kind of
Yep, yep,
your
exactly.
thinking. And then oh, did we not actually tick up there? Okay, so just making sure we have the number of counters on there we're supposed to have and flip that
Yeah.
because
Oh yeah, good call. Good call.
we flipped them, but we forgot to deal with that.
Yeah, that's right. And
All
you
right.
know what? I'm looking at things again now, and I'm almost wondering if instead of the Throg and Brawn to take out Beetle,
Mm-hmm.
we should actually. Oh, can we do that with Wasp Bane? I actually forgot how the interaction with guard and like spreading damage actually works.
No, so if there is guard, you the damage has to be allocated kind of to only the not villain
Mm.
during that one. So, but we could um, we could clear the activation, flip with surprise attack to take out Beetle, and then use Throg, for example, to actually flip and then use Wasp Sting to do some more damage after or anything. I think that's actually more efficient than
Yeah, I think that is
doing
because
the
then
exact
yeah,
three.
we still get the we can actually still get the ping to Gabi from the Tiny Hero form ability, doing one extra one damage, and then yeah, we could actually just get him to his next stage with Bronze attack, which is pretty awesome actually.
Oh yeah, right. So that's even more efficient, and then Braun can take some more of the damage. Okay, so
Yeah.
what we're liking is we will attack with Wasp, which clears the stunned.
Yep.
We will flip down to Tiny
Hmm.
and surprise attack with our martial prowess to take out Beetle,
Yep.
and then we're not going to spend the extra, so she can go back in there for all we care,
For sure.
unless you have some opposition I wasn't predicting.
Oh no, yeah. Always freaking shuffle her back. Like not only is like it good to like not waste the resource to get her out, but like honestly, she drawing her as an encounter or a boost is a lot better than like most of the other cards in this encounter deck. So
Agreed.
yeah, definitely get her back in there.
Agreed. Okay, and then we get that extra damage that's happening after, so the guard has been cleared.
Hmm.
Villain takes one
Take
damage.
one.
Then we do Brawn.
Mhm.
After Brawn attacks, remove one threat from scheme. We did Brawn. Brawn is going to take it down to 0. This is still
Mhm.
during the attack, so the clearing the threat has not yet happened.
Mhm.
We are going to advance Gabi.
Mhm.
Gabi comes in with 18 health and is going to do 4 indirect damage before anything else happens. So we can
Mhm.
put, let's say we could say Brawn for um, a block this turn as well.
Yep.
So we could take
Mhm.
2 on Brawn and 2 on Wasp.
Yeah, that's probably the way to go. Yeah, you could also do one on Throg just because you can make the argument that like health is a little bit more important in this scenario, and sometimes you just want to use minions freaking indirect damage sponges.
Mm-hmm.
But we're also running a little long, so I think that damage is going to come in more use in this situation.
Okay. So
Yeah.
decent chance we're going to end this under starting health with where things are at, but we might be able to hit allies on the board that do what we want. So it's 1-2 on Brawn,
Hmm.
1-2 on Wasp,
Hmm.
and we're calling that good.
Yeah, for
Now,
sure.
now the threat clearing that happens after Brawn's attack
Yep.
happens. Okay. Now we can actually do the Wasp Sting, which are in
Hmm.
tiny form, so that's going to be worth 5.
Yeah.
And finally, we can do target acquired,
Yep.
just to keep him from flipping again if we want. And finally, we'll attack with Throg.
Yeah. Perfect.
Okay. So we are. There's a small chance we can do this without actually making it all the way through the deck once, which is kind of amazing.
That is pretty crazy, actually. Yeah, just
Um,
all that being able to shuffle things back into the deck, like, just really helped out there.
so we are slightly short of being able to do it with what's here, but Angela, of course, always can enable amazing things. So we will see.
Yeah.
We are going into villain turn 7, which is adding a threat. Gabi goes to attack. Of the two, if we actually want to force an activation with either of these for any reason, would we want... Bronze thing is based on our earlier discussion. I'm not sure if that's actually correct, but I think based on our earlier thing, maybe the consequential would hit before Braun would be able to do his thwarting anyway. So I guess we block with Braun on the off chance we need 2 more damage from Throg somewhere.
Yeah, yeah, and I think we need damage over thwarting right now. There's not a lot of threat on the board, and we can just easily clear that with either giant help or even just like a thwart activation with Wasp in giant form. So,
All right. So we did not see any boost effects on that one.
mhm.
So that means Braun is going to hit the discard. And we've got our encounter card.
Of course.
Right. Okay, so right after he flips, he flips.
Mhm.
So he flips, and I'm of course doing this in the I play it all out so I don't forget anything version of it. So he flips, this flips, this gets 2, and this goes. And now we're grumpy.
Okay.
So the question that I'm wondering is if we try to do some sort of health recovery before we really push to the end game, or do we just kind of be happy having some crappy health and finishing it off?
Um, I'm almost wondering if it would be worth risking trying to get the best of both worlds. By that I mean maybe flipping him this turn while we're still in hero back to Gabi taking the damage, and then flipping back to alter ego to like heal up a little bit.
Hmm.
He'll have 2 madness counters, so basically we'll be missing an attack from him, and then the chance of him actually like getting that second counter off are pretty low, right? Or
Well,
like relatively low.
and we have a target acquired.
That's hero action only, unfortunately.
Oh, is
So
it
we
really?
wouldn't be able to. Yeah, we wouldn't be able to block it there. But he also won't draw a boost card because he's just replacing the attack with making a madness
Oh,
counter off.
correct, correct. Okay.
So we're good there. So I think that might be the best play to get some health back, and then also like just kind of like take the good chance that he won't flip again after we do that. But before that, let's see what other good plays that we can make here. I'm thinking Angela should probably come down. I feel like that's always a good call.
Yes, I've played with you enough to know that you definitely love Angela. She's terrifying to me, but that's fine. The yeah, the I mean, I think one of the important things to always remember with some of these things that pull minions is paying attention to whether or not they trigger the when revealed effects or not. And Angela, importantly, does not.
Exactly.
And so
And
things like that criminal, whatever, that 3 health guy that has a when revealed
mhm,
effect, if you pull him out, he's kind of much less scary or annoying.
exactly. Plus, you're like pulling out the minions that have the menace counter affecting boost effects. Plus, like, like people don't realize like how many choices you get out of the top 10 cards.
Yep.
Like that is just a crazy selection. Like I've never missed with her once in all my test games in this round, like at all. She's always going to pull something good and always going to pull something that's like worth getting out. So,
And then importantly here, we can then pinpoint strike and just run right over what comes out, and Angela can flip.
yeah,
Um,
exactly.
and
I
then we
mean,
can
what
also use sorry, we can also use Angela to take a little bit of that indirect damage as well.
exactly.
Okay.
And what would be even nicer on top of that is if we didn't pull a guard minion, we could just like flip Gabi and then just like do the full brunt of the pinpoint strike right into him. That'd be great.
Okay, so our guard minions are that 4 health thing and beetle,
Hmm. Yes.
right?
Yes, correct. So we're really hoping to get that 3 health guy, which I know we've already pulled one. So
So in the worst case scenario, we've got to use Wasp Sting to take out the 4 health guy, and then Angela can flip him, right? That's kind of the
exactly.
or beetle
Yeah, exactly.
or pinpoint strike just right over top of it anyway, and it flips Gobby on its own. Okay, so I
Yeah, yeah.
think that's all safe. Okay, so we bring Angela out. And we go and we search the top 10 cards. So this will be, once we're looking, this will be the top ones up here. And we see only the 4 health private security specialists. Those are our only options in the top 10.
Okay. And
So,
that is still fine. So we'll just pull one of those out, and yeah, the pinpoint strike will like waste a little bit of damage, but nothing too horrible.
Okay, this thing doesn't have any when revealed effects anyway. Let's shuffle
Yep.
this up, and then we'll just run right over this with a pinpoint strike. Shall we
Yep.
plan to keep a giant help or a wasp sting?
Let's see. Where are we at with threat right now? We might want to keep the Wasp sting. I think threat is something we could probably still manage pretty easily. Um, so yeah, let's keep the Wasp sting here.
All right, and then
I mean, either way, we can actually just shuffle it back into the deck, right? Once we get to Alter Ego.
100%. And what
Yeah.
means we're almost guaranteed to see it next turn
Mm-hmm.
because how short our deck is. He's going to have 3 threat by the end of this, right?
Yep.
Because we're definitely not using Angela to thwart.
Yep.
So, okay, so we'll keep the Wasp Sting. Giant Help will probably be popping back out anyway. That seems fine. So that's going to be 8 damage, including overkill. 4 goes here. 2 goes to Gobby, and then Gobby flips again. And now we're taking another 4 indirect damage. And do we... This is now where I think that damage versus health discussion needs to happen, right? Do
Yeah.
we... There's a non-zero chance we can actually finish it off next turn, but probably not. So we're probably going to want to keep at least 1 blocker around.
Mm-hmm. Well, I
Maybe
mean,
2.
well, we could shuffle Pinpoint Strike back into the deck once we go to Alter Ego and almost guarantee that we can finish it next turn.
Oh yeah, that's interesting. Um, we can't. So we're definitely going to want to keep one of the allies for attacking as part of that.
Mm-hmm. Yep, for sure.
Do we keep both then, just to guarantee we can do that and then thwart?
I would say so. Yeah, I think that's definitely the play.
So we take. That means we take 2 off Angela,
Mhm.
um, and then 2 off Wasp, and then we're going to flip to AE. And unfortunately, her recovery is crap. Um, I it it is very non-intuitive who has the good recovery and who doesn't actually. I don't know if you
Yeah,
found that.
totally 100% fair.
Um, and then we're going to, what do we decide? We want to grab a pinpoint strike. It we probably want to overload it so we don't get an extra encounter card. So we definitely want to put 2 in there, 2 things.
Yeah, yeah, good call.
So we've got 1 pinpoint strike. There's probably an energy in here. Not energy. What's it called? Sorry, genius.
Genius. Yeah, yeah, I think there should be a genius in there,
So do you want to go
which would
genius
be
and pinpoint
great.
strike? Because that'll make it very likely we can actually do something alongside our pinpoint strike next turn.
Yeah, that is. I think that's the play.
So this is going to make our deck. Oh, actually, so we didn't have to put 2 in there because if we're holding Wasp Sting. Do we want to even then hold Wasp Sting, or do we want to ditch it so
Now
we
let's.
maximize our chance?
Yeah, let's throw a Wasp stain out at that case, so we have a better chance of actually getting that pinpoint
Okay,
strike that we
okay,
need.
okay. And there's the smallest chance we'll actually be able to use Wasp's activation to heal and then do some other stuff, right?
Yeah, which would be super great.
That would be super great. So we did get a pinpoint strike. We got 3 pinpoint strikes, in fact.
Oh my god. Okay. Oh, and a giant help. That'll actually really help with the threat left over,
So
which
that
is
means we
great.
can actually do all the stuff. We can heal, we can thwart, we can pinpoint strike. So as long as this encounter card doesn't go terribly, we're in pretty good shape.
Yeah, I think so. Drum
All
roll.
right. Okay, so turn 7. Um, he gets his threat. He goes to activate, but since he's in Green Goblin form and he's going to scheme, he just removes one of these.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get our encounter card. And okay, that is a thing we can easily deal with what we have on the board. We'll probably have to decide if we want to prioritize health or or threat as our
Mm-hmm.
final thing, but I think that's kind of the last real decision we're making.
Think so, yeah.
Right? He's in blah, 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 blah. Yeah, okay. So we've got 5 threat on the board. And so now it's our turn 9,
Mm-hmm.
which is kind of where you're saying is typically what you're seeing.
Oh yeah, 100%. Like pretty much every game, it's like somewhere between 8 and 10.
So we're going to be able to pinpoint strike
Mm-hmm.
with our activation. We'll be able to giant help. We don't have quite enough resources to do anything else, so we're going to end up with an extra card, no problem.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then what is giant health is 4 when we're in giant. So we can get the schemes down to 1,
Mm-hmm.
which I guess just means we heal.
Yeah, I'm trying to think through that. Because I know leaving threat on board is usually better, or usually worse than basically threat has a higher priority than hero health when it comes to the final scoring.
Well, hold
So
on
I
a
don't
sec.
know if it's
Yeah, so
oh.
the total is 17. So if we leave
Mm-hmm.
1 threat, it's like 1 out of 17 versus 1 out of 11
Mm-hmm.
for the healing.
And that's 3 versus 1, too. So okay, okay. Hmm.
And we're going to be able to save one of these two because the villain's going to get defeated before the consequential hits. So
That is true. That
we
is
can
true.
actually get ourselves back up to 9 and then 10 with one of these. So we'll be 1 health short and 1 threat. That's not a bad score.
No, that's not horrible at all, actually.
Okay. So we heal,
Hmm.
and then we're going to have to do this from big, but that's fine. We have enough damage on the board to have this work.
Yep.
So we're going to go over to giant. We are going to do giant help, which is going to be 4 threat removal.
Hmm.
And we do 1, 2, 3, 3, 4, and that clears. We then, with martial prowess, not that we actually need it, pinpoint strike. We'll play 3 pinpoint strikes at once just to make it really exciting.
Yeah.
That takes us down to 4, and then finally Throg does 2, and last but not least, Angela does 2, and then the game ends before that consequential damage happens, and
Woohoo!
we've got 10 of the health, 1 threat on the board. Gobby's defeated. Okay, and it
Yeah.
now. So, did that feel more or less typical?
That was pretty typical, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely like yeah, would we flip like twice when we didn't want to, which is pretty much always like on par, no matter how many copies of Target Acquired you have out. Um, it's always gonna happen. He's always gonna flip a couple more times. But I think we played that pretty well. Yeah, no, that went pretty fantastically. I think the score is going to be pretty decent. Like I said, for me, like the average that I was getting with this deck was like anywhere between 8 and 10, which I didn't think. Like I thought I could maybe do a faster deck, but like everyone else I've talked to is like either around there or like way higher from what I've heard.
Right.
So yeah, yeah, I think that's actually going to be a pretty decent score if we get around there every single time for our official games.
Yeah, ironically, because I have played a handful of games with Justice, um, and I was probably finding 7 to 9 was my typical finishing, but
Hmm.
the I almost never needed to flip with Justice, which is kind of the weirdest thing.
Really, I actually would not have expected that. Huh, that's crazy. Were you just able to like soak up damage because of like high health allies, or just better control in general?
Um, yeah, so the way I was playing it, because I do have the card draw, I was able to leverage War Machine and trying to think of what else, but I've just kind of again, I only played a handful of games, so it's hard to know how generalizable the experience was.
Mhm.
But I don't think I have actually intentionally flipped in any of those games that I played, which just feels
Wow.
so weird considering the experience that we just had, and it feels like we made very reasonable decisions. So,
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. I
huh.
mean, I would say that was maybe like slightly higher on average damage wise than like you get sometimes, which is why we had to flip so much.
Hmm.
Like not being able to take that minion out that one turn, taking the 2 damage from that, taking a couple of extra attacks. Like the risky play we did with Hulk early on definitely got us some damage in where we wouldn't have actually necessarily needed it, but that is how it goes.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks everybody for watching. Thanks, MathyNoodles, for indulging me in coming to coach me with your deck. That was fun. Well, maybe we'll try this again in future rounds. I think one of the nice things about Alliance is we're all going to have some different experiences that we're bringing to playing this. So it's not just like I have an aggression deck that is 2 cards different from your aggression deck. Show me how to use yours. So we're going to have some much more different experiences. So I think this is probably a fun way to see a little bit more of those experiences without necessarily sinking a bunch of time into trying every single aspect or anything.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Really love the idea of the alliances from that alone. Just like having a little bit more variety, and maybe I won't play aggro every single round where I get the option from now on. But yeah, no, thanks so much for having me. This was a lot of fun. Would definitely love to do it again in the future for future rounds.
All right. Okay. Check you later.
Have a good one.